And hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast. It is, of course, the absolutely Premier League show. It's a Tuesday night. We're live. It's just the two of us tonight, but it's a fantastic duo, hopefully, to keep you entertained for this evening. We're going to talk a bit of Premier League. There's obviously some live football going on as well, so we might dip in and out of that as that's kind of going on. But yeah, plenty to talk about this evening. But as I say, it's not just me, because that would be incredibly boring just having to listen to me. You've got the wonderful man to the other side, left or right, depending how you're looking at the screen. It's Sir Grimmy. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm very well. Especially after last night's result. I'm very well, Sam. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Yes, last night's result did certainly help. I think from a Manchester United perspective, the first win on a Monday night this season, it's not been particularly kind. But yes, we were happy. Rebecca, not so much, but she's at Accrington today. So if Accrington get a win, there you go. There's always another team for Rebecca to come back with.
There's always another team for Rebecca, yeah.
It's never over. It's not just us. It's as Graham's been in here doing his video print a bit already. Like, he's letting us know, because obviously on the Absolute Football Podcast we have a lot of people on the pod who support different teams. So plenty of those teams are in action tonight, including the wonderful Ben, Maidstone fan. He's 3-0 up against Enfield. He's having the time of his life today. Of course, the wonderful Shah Devante Rodney baby has scored for Rochdale as they try and chase that title in National League. And Dreety will be happy because Bradford have beaten Rotherham as well. So there's plenty there going on tonight. So yes, we've got plenty of Premier League to talk about, just myself and Grimmy. So be a bit different to our usual show. We just kind of go back and forth, see how we play. But the way we're going to start, Grimmy, of course, all the talk of the last week, the title threat from Arsenal to Manchester City. We're going to go back a week. We were doing the rankings show. You weren't on, of course, but we were talking about Arsenal looking like things are looking very good. However, we caveated, if they make a bit of a balls up against Wolves, it might change the narrative.
Yeah.
And didn't it just change the narrative? Because they collapsed from 2-0 to 2-2. Of course, had a crazy week before we then ended up at the North London derby. So going into the North London derby, were you sensing those Arsenal wobbly knees? Obviously, the bottle jobs comments was coming out from a lot of people online. How are you thinking of the title race?
Yeah, I mean, it was wide open, wasn't it? I think it still is, really. Points gap has shrunk bit by bit. And I'm sure there's plenty of twists and turns to go over the next sort of 10 games. But yeah, going into it, I think the Arsenal fans were very worried because of the fact that Spurs had a new manager. There could be a new manager bounce, and they might put something together. But of course, as we see by the score and the result, that didn't end up being the case, and Arsenal ended up winning it comfortably. But yeah, you can definitely feel the jitters are there, and I think that's gonna be it now. I think in terms of once we go into every game of Arsenal, I think there's going to be some jitters and there's going to be some nerves around it until they get this over the line, which could go all the way to the last game of the season if they end up doing it. So, yeah, definitely some nerves going around.
It certainly was, and it's looking exciting. And so we've got Arteta in, an Arteta in fan. Victor has outscored, obviously Victor Gyökeres has outscored every striker in this calendar year, and we will come on to that. A really important performance from Gyökeres against Spurs at the weekend. But I agree with you, Gummy. It was you kind of watched that and went, "Oh, that's a bad one. That's a bad one to drop against Wolves." Pressure building. Obviously, Tottenham, new manager. Been poor, let's be honest, and we'll come on to their issues, and things are looking a bit rough for them at the end of the season. But a massive game that Arsenal needed to respond in and get themselves not just back on track, but they needed the points, they needed a performance, they needed that confidence, and they certainly did that. 4-1, and I remember watching the game, and then I've watched the highlights since, but I kind of forgot how many chances Arsenal had and could really have been well out of sight before that. So, as one-sided as you expected this game?
Yeah, because again, there's always the threat of the new manager bounce, but with Spurs and their issues this season, I didn't particularly think that Arsenal were gonna suffer too much. There was a bit of a hope, obviously, when the Spurs got that instant response with the equaliser with Colin Muani, but yeah, I mean, Arsenal, the depth we've talked about so much in terms of the depth of their squad and how good they are. And I think if there was ever a game they were going to turn up, it was away to Spurs, even when they're in a bad run of form, or if they've been a bit shaky, or anything in between, really. So yeah, it kind of as comfortable as I expected it to be, really. I thought at the end of the first half, I thought, we might have a game in the second half, but Arsenal just kind of put the afterburners on and just ran away with it, really. And obviously Eze came up trumps again, and then Gyökeres popped in with a couple of goals, which will only help his confidence, I'm sure, as the season goes on.
Definitely. And coming back to Eze, of course, I think that 5 goals he's got against Tottenham now. I think he scored as well, didn't he, for Palace, adding on top of that. So really good opponent for Eberechi Eze. But as you said, he opened the scoring, and then we had a very un-Declan Rice moment where he was sort of ushering to everybody, calm down. Let's, after what happened against Wolves, let's make sure we don't do anything silly, whatever. And then he kind of, in a very tried to dribble through on the edge of his box, got caught by Kalamurani, and a very kind of quick reply. Were you impressed? I think it's difficult to assess in my mind anyway, because of how Tottenham are at the moment, as to whether how well and how much credit you can kind of give us. But they did, I thought, emotionally dealt with that better against Wolves. Wolves, they kind of went off the rails a bit. But did you feel that, okay, massive setback, but they got themselves back on the rails pretty quickly?
Yeah. I mean, it's one again. It's one of those. I think it's one of those important moments in the season where, even though they went 1-0 up and then obviously equalised straight away, it kind of could have gone either way from that point. But I think it said a lot about Arsenal in that moment that they were able to sort of reset, stabilize themselves, and then sort of just kind of kick on and go on and win the game. I think that you would like to think, I should say, because again, who knows with this Arsenal team, because there's been so many moments this season where we think, right, the 8-10 points ahead, they kind of can just bed in and just go about the business here without having to worry about it. But then they keep slipping up and doing silly things. But you would like to think that that sort of moment where they have had a bit of a knockback in the game, but then they've just kicked on and scored another 3, that should give them a bit of confidence. But it's the Premier League title races are funny things, especially when it's you trying to win your first one in such a long time, as we've seen, with the likes of, obviously, I mean, we've seen it over the years with United. Like, we've had a couple of slip ups. Like, we all remember the City chase, when obviously we all talk about that goal that we don't like to talk about with Aguero. That things can happen even when you've got a comfortable league with like 7 games to go. It's not done till it's over. Liverpool with the slip up with Chelsea, with Gerrard, and which is probably one of my favourites. No bias there. So, as comfortable as they might get or might seem, City are still breathing down the neck, even though it's not a flawless City by any stretch of the imagination.
No, and that pressure has been building. Kind of slowly. Even to Sean as well, who's with us tonight. It's the same shit, different week with the Northampton. It's time. There's always time, Sean. There's always time. I mean, if you're new to the podcast, sorry, Grimmy, carry on. It's
a bad time to mention Northampton because they have just conceded in the 48th minute.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry, half time to put things right. But yes, if you are new with us tonight, do let us know your comments in what's going on with the Premier League as well. We like to engage with the people in the chat, and do hit that like and subscribe button. It's very important. It would be great to support the channel if you could. We would much appreciate it. But yeah, back to that Arsenal pressure, and it has been building, because I think everyone's kind of, when they kind of reach that gap ahead, everybody does this with every team that kind of reaches that kind of, that they get a little bit of a breathing space, should we say, at the top of the league. If they do that, it's kind of done. Everybody likes to kind of put that on, but it has slowly been closing up, and it's good. It's interesting. It gives us something towards the end of the season where we're kind of in that, okay, what are Arsenal going to do and what are Manchester City going to do, and how are they going to respond to each other, who's playing first. And obviously, massive game at the Etihad, and then it's kind of made the Carabao Cup final have a little bit more spice than usual. Do you think? How big do you see that game in deciding the way it goes?
I think it's going to be very big, because I think it's huge, to be honest. I think you've got Arsenal, who are, both teams are both in for the quadruple. So there's the fact if you can take that away from one or the other. Obviously, we'll see if they're still in the FA Cup by that point. I would expect them to be by the time we get there. You've also got the fact that Arsenal haven't won a trophy in so long, and this unit needs a trophy to get them going. And we've also seen it. How many times have we seen it where that cup sets City up for the rest of the season? Once they win it, it's like their early sort of procession before the rest of the trophies come along. So yeah, I think it's very big because again, if it was like Arsenal against, I don't know, like a random Premier League team, like a Wolves or something in the final, like you'd expect them to win, and it's kind of like, yeah, they'll probably end up winning it. But when it's your title rivals and it's the people that are breathing down your neck or you're fighting against to win that title, I think it gives it even more significance because everyone says like it's like how people say it's like an early, like the Community Shield is sort of an early marker. I think this obviously has way more significance, and it's kind of like this is the serious marker going down now from whichever club wins it. And it doesn't really matter, even if it's a scrappy 1-0 win or if it's a penalty shootout, it's still laying the marker down of we've got this one over you, so let's kick on and get it for the rest of the season now. I think it'll affect Arsenal way more if they lose it. I think if City lose it, they'll be like, okay, we've lost one game, we can still go. I think if Arsenal lose it, it'll be like it's another missed trophy, and I think it'll have a bit more of a blow. But we'll see. Very, very much looking forward to it though, as a neutral.
There's a big narrative to it, isn't it? And as you say, like that early marker, it's almost like it's the running track, and it's like, this is the one on the bend, isn't it? This is who can get to that final straight with the momentum. And as you say, I just feel to get that trophy thing off the back and beat Manchester City could end up being absolutely colossal. And depending how that game goes as well, I think if it's touch and go and it's tight, like a kind of cup game, and somebody sort of just nicks it with a goal, but if one ends up fairly comfortably winning it, that could have a big question. Could have a big question mark. Sean's saying rumours are the Premier League could have 7 Champions League spots next season. Well, I think the 5th is looking like it's more or less kind of set, isn't it? Because it's all done on the UEFA coefficients, and at the minute, every single English team is still in all the European competitions, and it looks like Newcastle are going to continue on their journey, beating Karabag. You've also got Palace look kind of well set in their Conference League as well. And on top of that, I think, was it 4 of the top English sides are in the top 8 of the Champions League as well. So they're seeded for their clashes. So I think that secures 5th. But then I think the 6th one is if Villa win Europa League, they could get in that way. And then if somebody who doesn't then qualify wins the Champions League, I guess you could have 7. But that'd probably be Newcastle or Spurs.
You'd need Newcastle or Spurs to do it, which is... It's crazy, but it's possible, obviously. But
it's possible. But going on to Spurs, off the back of what we're watching with Tottenham at the moment, they kind of have a bigger thing, I think, to worry about, with the fact that they are banging a relegation dogfight. What did you make of, I say, the first game from Tudor and where Tottenham are at the moment?
It's a strange one because you couldn't have picked probably a worse opponent for him to have in his first game. And I think in the first half, I definitely saw a bit more energy, a bit more having a go. Whether that's because it's a derby or a big rivalry, obviously it's more than likely that's the case. But he just seemed to have a presence about him, Tudor. So you're wondering if that's going to maybe get him over the line and make them pick up some results. I haven't seen the run-in for Spurs, so I don't even know how good or bad the fixtures are for them. But they need to start picking up some wins quick, because these other teams around them are picking up points left, right, and centre. And West Ham aren't exactly pushovers now, as we well know. And Forest gave Liverpool a good go on Sunday. And with Pereira now in, they've probably got a bit of mojo back, a bit of a new manager bounce for the 50th time this season, it seems. Spurs, it seems ludicrous that they're in a relegation battle, but they are in a relegation battle because of the fact that everyone seems to be rising up and just picking up points as they go. But they're surely too big to go down. Like, this would probably be the biggest relegation I've seen in my lifetime if they go down. I mean, Newcastle was pretty big for me, obviously living up here, but yeah, they can't go down. Surely, Sam, can they?
You would think not. You would think not, because you look at the squad and you look at the players that are available. Even when you look at the players that are available to them without the injuries. Now, obviously, with the injuries, and they've had some horrific injuries, but and that seems to be a Spurs problem, because the argument last year was it was the way that Ange was running them in the ground, but it's happened again. So something's not quite right with them in terms of those. But I think you kind of have to say it could. You kind of have to say it could, because, as you said, they've not won in 9 Premier League games. They've not won a Premier League game in 2026. You look at, I don't have confidence in them in any of the teams you kind of see them coming up against. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantees in the Premier League anyway, but you just kind of look at, you go, Fulham away. Fulham have been good at home and been playing pretty well. Palace at home, okay, but even Palace is starting to wake up a little bit. Liverpool away at Anfield. I mean, I don't back Spurs there. Then a massive game against Nottingham Forest at home. But they're going to have to kind of get things together quickly. And I saw, obviously, like Richarlison came at the weekend. There's players that can come back and maybe sort of help them to reach something. But until I start to see them winning, now, again, new manager, as you said, horrendous first fixture. You have to give him the time to see what he's going to do. And he does have a reputation in Italy for being kind of a quick fixer. But he doesn't have Premier League experience. He's changing a little bit the way they're trying to play. I mean, they played, look at that back three that they played. They had Palhinha. I love Palhinha. He's not a centre-back. You've got Dragusin, who is possibly the worst defender, I think, to have in kind of like quite high up the pit. He's not got the great pace to deal with. And Gyökeres has absolutely turned him over at the weekend. And Van der Ven, who I think, is obviously a very good centre-back, I think. But it's just missing so many elements that need to come together at a time when you look at the others around them, where you have more confidence in. West Ham, as you said, playing really well now. They look threatening. They weren't able to get across the line against Bournemouth, but again, picking points up. And Forest, who will come to, played really well against Liverpool, but didn't kind of have that cutting edge. Now, that's a different problem that they're facing, but I just don't know. I would agree with you. You'd usually say they're too, but there is nobody who's too good to go down. If you're here after this many games,
you're there for a reason.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's the question. Graham says Palace, Forest and Wolves coming up. Those three will probably answer the question of how genuine is the relegation. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think definitely the Palace and Forest ones are going to be. And Wolves, the pressure will be massive because they'll have to. But Wolves have started to be a bit tricky recently.
They've been tough. I mean, they've drawn against Arsenal. That's not an easy result to get at the best of times. Never mind when you're a dead and buried relegation team at the minute, which they are, let's be honest. And they'll be some of those players. Every player and every team is always trying to make a point to the next club, or especially when you're in that relegation battle. If you somehow end up getting relegated, you want to be trying to put your best foot forward for potential buyers in the future. Especially those Wolves players will be thinking, can we attract a Premier League club to come get us and save us from playing in the Championship? And that's what their focus will probably be for the rest of the season. So yeah, I don't think anyone playing Wolves is going to get an easy ride necessarily between the next 10 games. So yeah, I think Spurs could be in a bit of bother if they don't hurry up and wake up, basically.
In trouble. David says they finish 16th, 17th next season. They deserve to be relegated. I mean, this is now the second season. I mean, obviously they were clear in the end because the bottom three last year weren't putting up the kind of fight we're seeing this year. The promoted sides this year have been much better, specifically Leeds and obviously Sunderland. But this is a 2-season thing. This is kind of where that club is at. And I mean, if they do go down, Grimmy, and this is damaging beyond belief, surely, isn't it? Like sort of the kind of new ownership up there. Like it's for Tottenham to kind of go down, they'll have to, I would imagine, offload so much because they've got one of the highest wage bills in the Premier League as well. This could be absolutely devastating.
There's clear outs and then there'll be clear outs because I can't imagine that many of them will stay. I don't think there's many Spurs players that you can keep who are going to be able to ride that storm with the fans, especially going into the Championship. I think maybe some of the youngsters you've got, like maybe Archie Gray and people like that, you'd keep hold of because you can build around them coming back up. But then, yeah, it would be devastating because financially, you're not going to have anywhere near. Obviously, there's parachute payments or whatever, but for Spurs, that's not going to be anywhere near enough. Yes, they've got that nice fancy new stadium, but are the fans going to pay the season ticket prices that they've probably started to have a look at in terms of paying? I don't think so. You're not going to get as much money for your players if you've been relegated down to the Championship. We've seen it before where people get cut deal prices. So, it's not going to be easy for them it's not going to be easy for anybody when you go down, but much less when you're a giant like Spurs who shouldn't be anywhere near this equation. But, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of players are going to be leaving in the summer anyway with how it's been the past couple of years. Likes of Romero is obviously with some of the stuff he said in his recently about the club and the state of affairs, which again, I don't disagree with what he said. Maybe just don't put it out when you're in the middle of a relegation battle. That's kind of probably not the thing to do. But yeah, if they do get relegated, it's going to be a long journey back. I'm not saying they're going to do a Southampton or a Leeds and just spiral, but the people in charge are going to have some very hard questions to answer if that ends up being the case. I think even a 17th is a disgrace, really. A 17th finish is a disgrace for a club like Spurs, 2 seasons in a row. Just regardless if they win a trophy or not, I think 17th twice in a row is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just complete, particularly when, they've got aspirations of, Tottenham fans were expecting much better things. Certainly a top half finish, battling into kind of those European places. I mean, they're in the Champions League and been playing okay in the Champions League, but we've seen most English teams this year have been really good in Europe. You said they just won't have planned for this. There'll be no, I know most teams don't like to plan for the Championship, but some will have the idea that it's a possibility and probably have that. Tottenham won't have even considered, particularly after the 17th last season, and let's put that behind us. We've got this. They spent money in the summer on a few players. Didn't get some of what they wanted in terms of some of the players they got, and maybe that affected some of the early part, I think, for Thomas Frank, that he didn't get some of the targets he wanted. And they've had, Maddison out, Kulusevski out. You've now got Mohamed Kudus is out. They've lost Solanke's only just come back in. Richarlison's been out for a bit. There is a number of injuries. Defensively, they've got issues. But as you said, it is disgraceful, really, that they've found themselves in 17th. Graham, of course, he knows everything in football history, does our Graham. He remembers Christian Gross arriving in 1997 and proudly displaying his travel card at his press conference. Football heritage, as Mr. Mourinho would say. And David says, Alan Sugar will be fuming on The Apprentice. He might leave my form for a programme a bit. Yeah, it's not looking good.
No, it's not.
Good for Spurs. Not good for Spurs. But the flip side of the title race and the other side, of course, is Manchester City are the side that are trying to chase Arsenal down. And they got their win in the bag. Played Newcastle. It seems like played Newcastle because of those blooming League Cup semi-finals. Seems like there's been 100 Manchester City Newcastle games, but this one was probably the closest of the ones that we'd seen recently. Nico O'Reilly with 2 goals, Grimmy. Very nice for my dream team. Very pleased about that. When a defender scores a brace. Very, very rare to see. But of course, was a midfielder when he came through. So important for City as well, for it not to be a Haaland or for somebody else to come up good. It's what you need in a title race, isn't it? Pulling on everything you have.
Yeah, I think Haaland's in a bad run of form, whatever that means for Haaland. Not being necessarily scoring every single game. I think in any title race, it's important that everyone pulls up something in the form book, and you get something out of everyone in the team, and everyone's chipping in, or you've got multiple bodies chipping in with goals and doing what they need to help out the cause. Really, there's going to be games where your big stars aren't chipping in, and then someone comes off the bench and nicks you a goal at the end, or a goal from unexpected sources comes from somewhere in a title race, and this might be one of those days for City. But yeah, it's a huge result for them. I kind of expected this, to be honest. I didn't necessarily think Newcastle were going to do anything spectacular against City. They gave it a good goal though in that second half. I did think they might snatch a second goal watching it live. But if you actually look at Newcastle's record at the City ground, it's really not. It's not pretty. It's not something you'd want to read back if you're a Newcastle fan. Let's just put it that way. And I should
read it for them, Grimmy. Don't worry, I will read it for them. 17 straight home defeats at the Etihad in the Premier League.
So it's just, it is what it is for Newcastle. I think, but for City, it's kind of business as usual. They've picked up the latest win and then put the pressure on Arsenal to see if anything changes there. So, not really a lot more I could say about it, really.
It is. It's that stage of the season for them. Just win at all costs is kind of the game that they're playing, that they have to play. And it's just really well taken. Particularly that first one from O'Reilly was a really good strike. And interesting, he's been playing left back, but did come through as kind of a midfielder. He's been used by obviously Thomas Tuchel at left back as well. So he's one who's got potentially a big summer ahead of him as well. And as you said, you need those other players to take that pressure off. While Haaland's maybe not quite firing on all cylinders as he kind of has in front of goal, you've got players like O'Reilly that can get you a goal from the back. Obviously, they've lost, like Gvardiol used to be a great one for that when he was fit as well, sort of defenders coming in and doing the business. But then you look at those threats around, you need people like Marmoush, like Foden. Semenyo's obviously been sort of good and supporting in terms of a provider as well as a goal scorer since he's come at City, obviously. And you get the feeling he's starting to blend a bit better in that attack as well. So there's a lot of threats still. There's a lot of threats. And is that the thing you think Arsenal will worry, that City can use different weapons to get through games?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is, I mean, it's the same for both of them, really, isn't it? Like, how Arsenal don't have that one sole goal scorer. They have a bunch of people they can rely on, and City, despite the fact, of course, all the attention is always going to be on Haaland. That's understandable, but they have a top squad. There's a reason why they're in the title race. They have players up and down that starting 11 and on the bench, and who aren't even on the bench, that can chip in and get goals at the most random of times. So yeah, of course, there's threats all over the pitch for City, and as well as it should be, because they're a title chasing team or a title winning team. So you'd expect that, really.
Yeah, 100% that they're going to need, and they're going to need some of those if they're going to chase Arsenal down in the end. Not really a lot more to say about Manchester. Another big save as well from Donnarumma. He does love a important save at the minute, but he is a fantastic goalkeeper. From Newcastle's kind of perspective, obviously, just not picked anything up away from home really all season, it seems to be. And also their record without Bruno Guimaraes is pretty hideous when you kind of look at it. Obviously a win last week away from home against Tottenham, but as we've kind of just gone through, everyone's kind of been beating Spurs. But that's now 4 losses in their last 5. Mm-hmm. Everton and Manchester United at St James's Park coming up next. It should be really important to kind of get themselves back on track. I think... They 2-0 up against. I'm pretty sure I saw Graham give us a 2-0 up
against Tonali and Joe Linton early doors for them. So
the Champions League is still a possibility for them in terms of where that could go. But how are you rating? How do you think the pressure is with Eddie Howe? Because it does seem to be turning a little bit up there, and I get the feeling that Sunderland at home on match day 31 could be massive in terms of how the feeling goes up there. That and a Champions League run potentially.
Yeah, I think there is, obviously, I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it, with Howe? Because from an outsider perspective looking in, he's won them the first trophy in decades. He's got them Champions League 2 out of 3 seasons. he's done everything right, basically. That I don't think there's much he's done wrong in the space of his time at Newcastle. He's worked in the parameters that he can with PSR, and obviously we all know Newcastle want to spend more money, but you can't ignore the form they've got in the league. You know, they've struggled away from home this season. I think it's quite clear to see that. They've obviously got a lot of injury problems as well. I think obviously you've got Bruno Guimaraes being out. He's obviously a massive miss for them. Defensively, they've had injuries left, right, and centre. Livramento's had a couple of long spells out injured. So you know they've had important players out. Forward wise, the whole Isak issue in the summer has clearly hurt them, I think, long term. And obviously Walter Marta's scored some goals, but he's kind of been a bit iffy recently, and Visser's obviously returned from a long injury in the middle of the season, and we all know not having a proper preseason does hurt you. So I think that's not helped things. But for how, in terms of the fans' perspective, the fans that I know of Newcastle all love him and want him to do well, and I don't think there's a case of they're calling for his head. I think if it was they go into next season and it's kind of the same where they're not really picking up results, they're struggling to get out of that mid-table fight, then maybe in terms of trying to kick them on, I think that maybe would be a conversation. But that was a similar conversation to what they had 2 seasons ago. And then he went and had a good summer. They got the Champions League, won the Carabao Cup, and then everything was okay again. So if they go on a bit of a run towards the end of the season, which they could well do, like there's no reason they shouldn't, or they can't, I should say, then I think it'll, if they finish in, like, say, the top 8, you know, get European football for next season again, which, again, with how tight it is up there, is definitely possible. I don't see there being an issue. I don't think getting rid of Howe is the right move, because I don't think whoever comes in next is necessarily going to get more out of this squad. I think the squad does need a bit of a shake-up in the summer. I think there are players that are clearly not necessarily past it, but maybe have run the course at Newcastle. I think you look at likes of Anthony Gordon. He doesn't look happy at all. And I think when you're scoring goals away at Anfield, like they did to put them in the lead at Liverpool, and your expression is that of a man who's just found out his pets died or something like that, I think there is clearly something wrong with that man's attitude. He's had a face like a smacked backside for the majority of the season. He was having fights with Trippier over penalty for a 4th goal at Karabakh last week. Clearly something's not right there. I think the midfield is going to need a bit of a rejig as well, or not need a rejig. It's going to have a rejig, because I think you're going to lose one of, if not both, of Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali next season. There's reports Tonali, of course, going to Italy. There's reports of various Champions League teams wanting Guimaraes in there as well. And I think there's a clause potentially in Guimaraes' contract. And just as we mentioned that, Karabakh have got one back. It's now 8-2 on aggregate, so the comeback's on.
Game on.
So, you know, I think there is going to be a bit of a rejig, and I think the players that they'll sell, they'll get plenty of funds in. They just have to be smart in the summer. And I think if you're keeping Howe on, he'll probably be the best one to know who to get in and who is the right fit to kind of push them back up the table, really. But yeah, I think it's a strange one, because, of course, when your team's not doing great, when you are as big a club as Newcastle, there will be murmurs of people not being happy. But I think the majority of the fan base at this moment in time, I think, are still happy with Howe. They obviously hold that cup victory dearly to them, because it's the first one so long, and I think that will give Howe a lot more leeway than what you would maybe get in other clubs, like, say, with Liverpool and Slot this season. A lot of the fans are not happy with Slot, are they, with how it's gone after all the investment they've got. I think Howe will get that leeway to have another summer to rebuild or rejig the squad and get them going again. And there's nothing to suggest that he won't do that, because every time he's had a rough season or a rough period, he has come through it, and there's no reason why he can't do that again.
This is it. He's going to need to, I think. He's going to need to be the case. We've got the Night of the Universes here with some predictions for the games coming up. He's going early with predictions. So
Interesting.
Manchester City to win 3-1 at Leeds. Gone for Arsenal 1, Chelsea 2. That will quite upset the apple cart if that happened this weekend. And Liverpool, West Ham in a Desmond.
I will take that.
There you go. That would be some exciting results. That'd be a hell of a Premier League show next week if those are the results to talk about. Sure, but yeah, I agree with you. I think Newcastle. It's the rebuild is coming, isn't it? And I think it needs to. I think part of it as well, like obviously as you mentioned, the PSR issue, the ESAC thing starts. But I also felt a little bit post Carabao Cup final last year. I think they got found out a little bit. I think they were struggling to deal with that Newcastle midfield, and I think people are finding a better way to do it. And I think now with some of the attacking players of this season versus what they had last season, the threat when Isak was absolutely on fire. You had Alanga's come in, not kind of hit the ground that they've seen from say some of their wide players. I think in the past as well. I think there's been when Grimaris has been out, that midfield just doesn't kind of seem to work. There's a lot that needs doing, there, but they certainly won't want to lose against Sunderland in that match, having what happened at Stadium of Light.
But that'll be another moment for him as well, though. I'm sure Newcastle will put everything in the basket to win that game, and if they win that game, when I tell you that heals a lot of wounds, if they
means everything.
And if they beat Sunderland, a lot of fans will be like, okay, we've had not such a great season, but we've made up for the lack of performance against Sunderland first time round. So, and that will put a lot of things right. And it's that's a pretty big game as well, all things considered. And to be fair, it's a pretty big day, that one, because you've got, I think it's Sunderland and the Sunderland derby, and then I think it's the Carabao final as well. So.
Ooh.
What a day for watching football, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you.
That is a super duper Sunday, if I ever did see one. Not even if he's gone one step further. He's gone for the minute, not even just the goal scorers, but the minutes that they're going to score. I mean, that's predictions to the nth degree. So 2-1, he's gone for Chelsea at Arsenal. João Pedro in the 27th and Esteban in the 73rd. So very, very specific there. Graham is keeping us updated. There's a sad Clare at Burton at the minute.
Yeah.
Because, they are 3-0 down at Burton Albion. But there's a very happy Ben, 6-0 up against Enfield, scoring goals for fun, is our Ben, our Maidstone fan, of course. So next game up, Grimmy. Game up. There's a shirt that you have on that was worn of the years by of the red of Manchester United against the blue of Everton at the Hill Dickinson Stadium for the first time on Monday night. And the Sesko Express, as I've started calling him, once again off the bench. 3 points for Manchester United. What did you make of that?
Suck on that, Rebecca. That's what I'll say.
Dug it straight in.
Well, we would have never heard the end of it if we'd lost to Everton. I'm sure the time will come when we will eventually lose to Everton again, and I'm sure we'll get it. We'll get our just desserts on that one, or I certainly will anyway after that reaction. But yeah, it's it wasn't a pretty game. It wasn't a good performance by any stretch of the imagination, but we found a way, and that's all that matters at this stage of the season. When we've got ourselves into such a good position in the league, we've got to try and find ways of getting through. And we managed to do it. And I think it speaks a lot of this unit and what they've been able to do with Carrick. I don't necessarily think that the effort was necessarily misplaced with Amarim, but I just don't think the quality was there in the system. There's no Rebecca slander. There's no Rebecca slander whatsoever. It's just a polite jab in between friends on a podcast.
A polite jab.
A polite jab.
Have you ever seen one?
A cheeky little jab there. But yeah. And I think that, they've been put into a system again where they can be a bit more structurally sound defensively. It makes it easier for them to work as a team to keep teams out, and we're starting to see the benefits of that when our back's against the wall. We're starting to do it. I think the performances from Lamont, is that how you pronounce it? I can't remember.
Yeah, Lamont. I've seen two. There's Lamont and Lamons. They've seen two.
Yeah. From our keeper, his performance I thought was probably his best since he's been here. He was playing with an experience of a keeper vastly above his years and the amount of time he's been on the pitch playing professionally. Sesko coming on again, like you're saying, becoming a super sub. I think, for me personally, I'd be starting him on Sunday against Palace. I think it's either he can take any of the front three out and move them around and put them in whatever formation you want. And I think it'll still work fine. I think he's due a run in the team, a couple of games here or there, to see what he can do with a proper run in the squad. And yeah, that's kind of all the positives I can take out of it. Really, I don't think the performance was great by any stretch of the imagination. Apart from defensively, obviously we were pretty good. You have to be to keep a clean sheet in the Premier League. But going forward, it was kind of similar to the West Ham game where we got to the final third and then just didn't have that final ball to unlock the team, to unlock the Everton defence, really. So, yeah, kind of a frustrating one in that regard. But when you get the result, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's more about the end game than it is what happened during it when you've got the win.
Sometimes that's it, isn't it? And it's very different to those kind of opening games under Carrick. As to say, they rescued it against West Ham. Again, not a great performance. And again, Everton. But I think it was quite a scrappy game at points in the first half. So many misplaced taken passes from both teams. Both teams were getting behind the ball really quickly. There was a lot of bodies in front of goal. So I think it was making it difficult to kind of create. I think both sides, I think, struggled to kind of know how to unlock the door of the other one. We saw it seemed like 75 corners from Everton right underneath the crossbar in the second half. And he just said Lamens did such a good job. And I liked his post-match interview that he did on Sky Sports where they were talking to him about the fact that he holds so much as well. He catches everything. You know, there was a couple of really difficult ones that he could easily have spilled. It was a wet surface as well, and the ball was slippery, and a lot of stuff you'd see keepers sort of play or, parry out. I mean, Onana loved a good parry, didn't he? At times when he was with us last season. But
perhaps he liked to throw it in his own net, did Onana at times.
Plus mistakes and errors and crazy kicks and everything. But Lamens seems to hold on to everything. And he said, it's something he prides himself on. He said that something he prides himself on is his ability to catch it. And it's kind of gone out the game a little bit because it's always, I think it was seen as too risky to try and catch everything because you could, and don't get me wrong, there might be one or two that doesn't go right. He's a goalkeeper. It happens to the best of them. I'd seen Alisson make mistakes in various Manchester City games. Yet he's been, almost spotless over the time he's been here. It can happen to the best of them. But last night, I just thought, it just seems so calm as well. Imagine we had Bayern Deer from the start of the season with that tactic going on for 10 corners in a row. We could be 3-0 down. It could have been an absolute disaster. But that, I think, has helped give some confidence to the defenders in front of him as well. That's kind of build a relationship. And to the fact that you had Martinez out yesterday. Yeah. Yoro had to come in. Maguire had to shift along. And I thought Yoro was, a bit nervy early on, but, someone who's not played in a little while and getting used to, I think possibly it's definitely his first start under Carrick. So, needed to kind of bed in. But having Lamens there doing that, I think Dallow's really excelled in this kind of new structure. He seems to be a lot more simple with what he's trying to do. He's not the greatest crosser of the ball sometimes, doesn't always pick his man out, let's be honest. However, he does one or two things most of the time, Dallow. He either hits it smack off the first defender or he shanked it so high and wide over the top of everybody that it's only Maguire on stilts would be able to get on top of it, I think. But yeah, to say he's not the best crosser is putting it politely, I think. He's putting it politely, but he's getting in the movements and he's making, he was cutting back a lot, I think, under Amorim and getting in positions. And I like kind of how he's now integrating, particularly when you've got Ahmad there, you've got Mbumo who's kind of moving around that kind of front area as well. So it's nice to say and blend around. But as you said, it was one of those games, it almost felt like it was going to take something. And what we got was a wonderful ball from Cunha. First time we'd kind of got out in a quick transition, and Mbumo, and then poor James Tarkowski was left for absolute dead by Sesko as he stormed into the box and slotted into the bottom corner for the 1-0. We've got the wonderful Dreeties here with us, evening to Dreety from live from Valley Parade, watching Bradford tonight. And as you said, Grimmy, sometimes you've just got to get over the line. You've just got to get over the line. It's one of those kind of games. And 100% held at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. There you go. Happy days indeed.
Exactly.
It's what you need. It's what you need. What did you make of Everton? If we give it the sort of full 360 treatment, did you think they kind of just lacked a little bit in those attacking areas? And I know, obviously, again, injuries. They're missing kind of Grealish, and they've got one or two. And Jai was pretty ineffective compared to how I've seen him in the past. Do you think they're still getting used to how to play at home? Because I thought it was they almost set up like an away team at times.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one because I think for the first 20 minutes we were definitely the better team. We definitely had more of the ball. We were moving it around, dealing with the pressure quite well. But then the sort of second half of the first half, the second part of the first half, they really started to put pressure on us, really run the ball and high up in the pitch and really put pressure on us when we had the ball. And obviously the corners were what they were in the second half. So they had their moments. It's not a case of I think that they were totally, out of ideas or anything like that. I just think that killer instinct or that sort of killer final ball or, someone to put a chance away was kind of what they were missing, which you can have at this stage in the season and where they are in the table. That's kind of probably been their main thing is sometimes they've got into games and they've had decent chances. They just haven't put them away. I think that the thing that will concern Everton fans in particular is the fact that they haven't won at home since December. That's a long stretch to be going at a new stadium and not winning. It kind of starts putting a monkey on your back of, oh, maybe we don't like playing at home so much and, we need to maybe pick up some wins quickly. They're still in the fight for European places. They're still in the middle of that and, put a run of form together and they very much will be comfortably in that sort of top 7, top 8. And they have the players to do it, and they've got the manager to do it. To be fair, I think Moyes is a brilliant manager for that sort of mid-table Premier League team. We've seen what he's done with Everton previously. We've seen what he did with West Ham. So as kind of up and down as it has been at times this season, and maybe it has been a bit more down at home recently, I still think Everton can put something together. It's just obviously they need to find that sharpness in front of goal and, maybe get Barry a few more goals in bet or maybe chip in a little bit. And yeah, I think that's probably what they need. And probably in the summer they'll try and find a striker maybe that can get them 10, 15 goals in a season and be a bit more reliable. That's probably what they'll be looking for. But yeah, I thought they played fine yesterday, but I didn't think it was a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination.
No, exactly. They said it was fairly even. As Graham says here, for a lot of the game, thought it was fairly even. Both dudes cancelled each other out. The dudes of Everton and the dudes of Man United. Sorry, just one moment. Equality, and Everton caught with too many players upfield was the difference. Yeah, I think Moyes referred to it in the press conference where they had midfielder crossing the ball and their left back had pummeled on, and then quick sort of transition. And where you go?
One thing I will say is I think by the time we got to the end of that game with the callers and how they were setting up, I thought was quite frankly ridiculous. I think I don't mind it when there's a player around the goalkeeper, like obviously trying to distract them and do that sort of thing. But when there's clearly like a rugby scrum of people collapsing on top of the guy, I think we're getting to a point where we need to maybe look at that and say, is there a limit of what you can have around the keeper? I know Arsenal are kind of the main purveyors of this and do a lot of this sort of pressuring around the keeper. I think they scored a very similar goal against us at the Emirates.
Start of the season, yeah.
And against Bayern at home as well at Old Trafford. And I get that it's successful, and I get that why teams want to replicate it, especially when they've got the setup or the bodies to do it with. But I just think it kind of goes against the whole point of trying to defend. Like, how can a team defend against that? Like, it's almost impossible. And I know it's kind of, you've got to use your strengths and you've got to use what you can to get goals in the game. But isn't that kind of against the whole point of trying to play football? Like, the whole thing of putting a corner in is being able to get a chance. You're hoping it's going to bounce off someone's head and go in, or bounce off a bunch of bodies in the middle of the 6-yard box. I just don't think that's in keeping with how it should be. People might disagree with that, people might not, But I just think when you've got 8 or 9 bodies in front of a goalkeeper, you're never gonna. How can that be a long-term thing for football to deal with? I just don't think that's going to be the case, really. I think something will change there.
I think because I think we grew up in an era where the keeper anytime it was almost the other way, wasn't it? The keeper you couldn't even touch the goalkeeper, and it was immediately kind of a thing, and there was a sort of that almost felt too soft. But as you said, it's gone to a point where I get sometimes you're playing percentages of ways that you can score a goal, but it's not. It's you're just punting a ball underneath the kind of crossbar, hoping that you're going to kind of knock the goalkeeper out of the way so he can't get it. Because in theory, if it's straight underneath the crossbar, if the goalkeeper's unimpeded, he should be getting it every day of the week. And it is. It got to the extent, but I think it almost got to the extent where Everton were just doing it because it was like, well, we can't do anything else. It's like, well, maybe actually then do something. Everyone's then piled back on the goalkeeper. Surely it will give your attackers a bit more space on the edge of the box, perhaps. And it got a bit silly. Like as you said, Graham was saying the referee wasn't great, gave too many soft fouls to United. But Tarkowski for me was really lucky because he shoved. I think he shoved. Was it Euro? He shoved in the goal when he got his booking.
Yeah, like Euro getting a booking for that. I'm like, he's fallen into the net. What's he supposed to like?
He was shoved by Tarkowski, who should have had a booking for the pull. He had a shirt pull on Ahmad in the first half, where Ahmad had gone past him, and the shirt pull's been a yellow card every day of the week. I did think, for both sides, I thought the ref was a bit. But as you said, it needs in some way they're going to have to consider it, and how they do that I don't know, because you may then find it goes back the other way then a bit, and you'll have goalkeepers that are just going down at any kind of bits that they can. But there has been another goal. Well, there's been another goal at Maidstone, unless there's been an incredible comeback from Enfield. Maidstone 7, Enfield 9. I think that's Maidstone 7, Enfield 0. If not, Enfield have probably just produced the comeback of all time.
Yeah.
And just as we're talking about Everton, after Grimmy has stuck the knife into Rebecca, they've gone 1-0 down.
Barnett have twisted it.
I think that's your fault, Grimmy. I think you're going to have to take ownership.
I'll take responsibility on that one, to be fair.
It could well be the case. And so not everyone of us going for the final standing. He reckons it will be City, Arsenal, Manchester United and Aston Villa. And that, of course, Grimmy, is because Aston Villa didn't get a result this weekend. It's now only 3 points between Manchester United and third. So before we kind of go on to the next game, how are you feeling about Champions League qualification from a United perspective?
Weirdly confident. I don't think I've ever felt confident about something with United for a while. I feel like we're going. I think we'll get it. I think it's not going to be easy. I think we're going to drop some points, obviously, along the way, and we're going to lose a couple of games here or there. But I think that we've got a resiliency in us now that we didn't have before. I think the other team around us are also going to drop points, which I think is going to help. Villa, of course, we know about their injury problems, and obviously they've got Europe to deal with as well. I think Liverpool. I've tweeted this out actually before on the Grim Devils Twitter page, just to give that a shout out whilst I was on it. Quick plug. But I basically said I think looking at the fixtures and looking at the run-ins, I basically said it'll be United third and Liverpool fourth, because I think Villa are going to come just a bit short with the injuries and Europe, and then I think Chelsea just don't have that consistency. And Chelsea's running, it looks pretty tough, actually, when you look at it. I think there's plenty of potential banana skins there for them to slip up or draw like they did against Burnley, which we'll get onto in a short while, I'm sure. But yeah, I do think we'll get it. If you told me this would be the case before Carrick joined, I probably would have laughed at you. But with how we've been playing, we seem to just be trucking on nicely. So watch us go lose 2-0 to Palace and me totally change my mind on Sunday. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling at the minute, and hopefully it stays the same. So yeah. How do you feel? Do you think we can get? Do you think we're going to do it? Do you think?
I feel. Yeah, I feel fairly good. I think same reason for you. I don't trust that the teams around United are going to be winning every week. I think they're going to be dropping stuff, particularly with Europe. We don't have Europe. The squad's, bar one or two injuries is fairly set. As long as we don't get, any major kind of injuries and you can keep that attacking unit together, then I think I think we're a problem for a lot of teams at the moment, and they do look, particularly at Old Trafford, we're a lot fresher. And I think that's going to do us well. We've obviously got a sort of 3-point run. I think the fact that you've got the 5th place as well in there, I think it's interesting. I still wouldn't rule. I thought, we've got the Liverpool game to come, but they got over the line a little bit. But you still just feel that they're the ones that have got the potential to do, to be a bit more robust in terms of a race. But I think that again comes down to Europe and how that works out. And Villa are then now a really interesting one because they've been pulled well into the thing. This is not the investors. Yeah, Villa are out of the title race. Yeah, I mean they've been dropping off slowly and coming back into that Champions League battle. So yeah, at the minute, I think winning yesterday, the way they did, picking that late goal up against West Ham, keeping that good feel from Carrick, continuing, it makes me feel good. Graham says we can't lose on Sunday. It's not allowed. I hope not, but
I think going to Graham's point, I think Sunday is one of those games that if we want to keep this momentum going, we have to try and get something from Sunday, definitely, because we've got Villa and Newcastle after that, and then I think it's like around the end of April, early May, we've got Chelsea and Liverpool back to back or close together. So
Chelsea,
it's like
Chelsea, then Brentford, then Liverpool.
Yeah. So like I mean, Brentford, the way they've been this season, that's not going to be an easy game. So it's going to be 3 tough games back to back. So yeah, we need to try and keep the phone going. And St. James's hasn't necessarily been the happiest of hunting grounds for us over the years. Sometimes we turn up and we play prime Barcelona-esque, and then sometimes we turn up and we play like prime Wolves relegation-esque. So who knows what version of us turns up there? But it's going to be an interesting journey. That much is for certain.
It's definitely going to be interesting, and as you mentioned, made even more interesting by the fact that Chelsea dropped points in a game that they wouldn't have foreseen to drop points. Although, funny enough, they failed to beat any of the promoted sides so far this year, with that 1-1 draw against Burnley, with that late equaliser from Burnley. So a real kind of kick for Chelsea. Really, needed that to keep their kind of momentum going. A bit of a, they've started well under Rossini, looked a lot better, but that's back-to-back draws now at home, and they now got Arsenal next away. They've got Aston Villa next away as well. There's some big games coming up for Chelsea as well that look really interesting. So massive blow for Chelsea, that really, to drop points at home to Burnley.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, it wasn't on my bingo card for the weekend's fixtures. I definitely thought Chelsea would be pretty comfortable in that, but fair play to Burnley. They stuck at it and they got something out of the game. But yeah, Chelsea, it's just another. It's another result to show that maybe the way the regime is running things isn't quite working out and isn't maybe getting the best results out of things and out of the players. I mean, they have so much talent in that squad. It's crazy, top to bottom, really, that they should be comfortably, with the way the season's been, they should be comfortably in that top 4, and they're just, for some reason, they aren't, and they just can't get consistency together in terms of results. And I don't think Rossini's done a bad job in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying he has. I think he's doing what he can with what he's got, but maybe with a full summer, he can sort of bed his ideas in and get them going properly come next season. But I think the thing that Chelsea lack for me is experience. They have so many good young players. They just need that sort of experience in the squad to sort of lift them up and sort of grab them by the scruff of the neck and sort of, like yesteryear when Terry and Lampard would do, when obviously they'd be having an off game. Some of the youngsters wouldn't be playing that great. Lampard would pop up with a goal and get them out of jail, or, something like that. And it's all well and good having all this brilliance as I get news of a Rochdale second goal against Halifax. Up the Dale.
Go on the Dale.
Go on the Dale. And Bodo Glimt have got a second one against Inter, actually, so that could be interesting. That takes that to 3-3 on aggregate, so more on that in the near future. But yeah, for Chelsea, for me, it's kind of, I think that result's kind of the microcosm of their season, really. It's 1-1, frustrating result at home, and yeah, they try and go get something against Arsenal now and see if they can lift themselves back up. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to be interesting. Just to add that Bodo Glimt run, Gummy, that's them 5-1 up on aggregate.
Is that 5-1 up on aggregate? Oh, I thought it was the way around. My bad. Oh,
no, they won 3-1 at home last week, where they had that crazy home record where they've been superb. And yeah, Inter Milan, the last year's finalists, of course, being well and truly done by Bodo. I mean, no, it's the Premier League show, and we'll probably come on to this another time, but the Italian league is in the mud at the minute. Like, they've had teams going out of Europe left, right, and centre. It's, players kind of screaming out of there. Inter's been the cream of the crop, and they're being beaten 5-1 on aggregate by Bodo Glimt. Not great for them, but it does look like joining them through Bodo Glimt being Newcastle 3-2 against Karabag, and Bayer Leverkusen still 0-0 with Olympiacos, but 2-0 on aggregate. So it looks like that they're going to be doing business.
Going back to Rochdale, it is now 1-2. Halifax have got one back with 3 minutes to go.
1-2, 1-2, 1-2. There we go. It's pressure. Right, come on, Rochdale. See it through. We know you can see it through. And Championship's going on as well. That's almost over. So I'll read some fixtures that we've got from them at the moment. We've got Bristol City 2-1 up at Blackburn. Hull beating Derby 4-2. A draw between Middlesbrough and Leicester. That's Middlesbrough having a bit of a sticky couple of games. Swansea 0, Preston 1. Watford 0, Ipswich 2. West Brom 1, Charlton 1. Wrexham 2, Portsmouth 1. Southampton 5. Queen's Park Rangers now, my word. Something's going on at Southampton. They've woken up a bit in recent weeks. But one thing that was mentioned, Grimmy, there's the Burnley equaliser. And Liam Rossini said afterwards, a marking assignment was missed, which sounds very much like a teacher faux pas. But apparently a marking assignment was missed, and Zion Fleming got the equaliser. And then I think he's been I don't know what it is. I don't know whether because of his demeanour or whatever, he's been getting some unwarranted stick, Rossini, online from some people. And then I saw something in particular because he was sat in a pub having a beer watching some football. They just sort of questioned his aura and questioned. It's like he is just a guy. he is someone who loves football as a football manager, and he's watching a game with a drink. Do you know what I mean? It's just you. What do you expect of people? Just stupidity like that. But what do you make of Rossini? It's quite intriguing.
I don't mind him. I think he's, even when he was a pundit, I thought it was more interesting than your average pundit. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt like he brought something to the table, and you could clearly see with what he did with Hull, he had something about him. There's not many people who can take a struggling championship team and turn them into almost playoff contenders, and he did a good job at Strasbourg by all accounts, was building something there. And yeah, I don't understand not the hate. I don't think that's the right word. I don't understand the sort of the criticism he's getting and sort of judgment, I guess, from people. I think he's just because he's maybe he's got a bit of a different personality. He's a bit more laid back in his press conferences, and he, I just don't get it. And yeah, the whole thing of him going out to watch some football with his mates and have a pint, like, come on, he's a human being. Like, footballers have been caught doing far worse things than that. And, Riyad Rashford going to New York Fashion Week in the middle of a week off, and he didn't come back on time. So let's give our heads a wobble and, treat them all like human beings and just let them do what they want to do. Like, come on, like going out for a beer and watching football. I mean, do you not want a bit of normality from people when the football managers and players? Like, we always complain about how they live on these clouds and have all this pay packets and shiny cars and these mansions that they live in. So to see them doing normal things, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just don't get it. Like, I get it if it's like, a big derby, you've maybe lost. Maybe don't go out on the night for a Chinese or something, aka Ruben Amorim. Maybe don't do something like that. Maybe keep yourself out of the spotlight a little bit. But to go watch a football match with your friends, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think it's just, I think it's just something out with nothing, really. I think it's crazy.
It's not. It's nonsense, isn't it? As you said, yeah. Just a bit of normality, bit of humbleness, bit of just doing something because, funnily enough, he's a bloke that likes football. Like, and he could be anybody who likes football and could go and do, go to the pub and enjoy that, or go wherever. It's just nonsense. But
it's like saying to you, Sam, it's like, oh, you've not presented particularly well this week, therefore you can't go play a tennis match at the weekend.
Oh, sorry about that, mate. I'll do better next week.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. It just, like, you wouldn't say it to an old person. Oh, you can't go out and have a pint with your mates. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are we doing? Like,
you haven't earned it.
Yeah, like it's just like the football community as a whole sometimes is just a bunch of wallies, and I just don't understand them. Like, I just don't get it.
It can be a bunch of wallies. But we had a lovely comment in from Vicky Note. Says, hey guys, love your thing from West Africa. Thank you very much. Love your thing as well. So thank you for joining us tonight. But oh no, Sean, what's going on?
Oh no.
No. I mean, it's not the time for a Desmond at Rochdale.
Did I curse Dale? I feel like I might be to blame.
You might have done. If you have, don't tell Shah, because you'll be for it. It's Rebecca and Shah now.
Fortunately, she's lost her voice, so I might not even hear her if she's angry. So
she can throw. She can throw quite a long way.
I'm sure she can. I don't doubt that. I'm sure she's got a mean right hook as well, does our Shah.
Come on, Dale. There's still time to put that right. It's not going well for them there. But so we'll whiz through. We've got a couple more games that we'll go through, and one because it does again kind of impact the Europa League places. Nottingham Forest 0, Liverpool 1. I must say Liverpool were pretty drab a lot of that game, particularly in the first half.
They were awful.
They couldn't keep the ball.
They couldn't. Like, I watched that game, and I don't think I've seen a worse performance from Liverpool this season. Like, I've seen them lose games and be relatively okay going forward, but they could not keep the ball. Forest, as was shown by Pereira's reaction at the end of the game, should be furious that they haven't come out with something in that game, because they had the better chances, the better time on the ball, and were on the up in that game. I thought this is the sort of performance as a Forest fan you can hook yourselves onto and go, okay, we can make something of the rest of the season now. Maybe do something in Europe, go on a bit of a run there, get some results, and steer ourselves away from relegation. But for Liverpool to win that it's what us Football Manager players would call being FM'd. You've been absolutely battered all game, but then you nick a goal at the end, and then somehow you've won the game or you've lost the game. And that was definitely one of those moments. And Liverpool were very lucky there. And again, I'm saying it as a United fan, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but Liverpool were very poor that game, and I was very surprised. I know there was something with Wirtz before kickoff, so there was a late change there, which can throw teams off. We've seen it before. Obviously, we've seen it with ourselves. We've seen it with a bunch of other teams throughout the season when they've had to make late changes. But the fact that it knocked them off so much really did surprise me. But yeah, a very poor performance, but they found a way. Like we're saying about United, they found a way and they've got 3 points, and every 3 points is a big 3 points at this part of the season. So, I mean, fair play to them.
Yeah, it was a massive goal that they needed. As you said, Wirtz was in the starting 11, and then kind of after the warm-up that he sort of pulled up, so they had to bring Curtis Jones in, and obviously, they've got issues at defence. They've had Szoboszlai playing at right back, and it just didn't just couldn't get out. But it was sloppy passes. So it wasn't, it was just silly things that they were kind of doing to get out, and that they did score and had it disallowed before they scored. There was a call against that, and then McAllister got a second chance, and it sort of fell nicely to him, and he did finally get that important goal for Liverpool, and so very important for them, because they would have started to lose ground a little bit, and the pressure would have been sort of heaped back on once again, off the back of a decent win against Sunderland previous weekend in their record. So they needed that kind of victory, but also it was a real kick in the gut, Grimmy, for Nottingham Forest. As you said, Vitor Pereira fuming at the inability to not even gain a point. You'd have expected 3 points from that performance, the way that they played in the relegation zone. West Ham drawing the day before. They need victories. But as you said, like great chances, just can't score. Just can't score. Just that final pass, that final moment lacks quality. That's a worry in a relegation zone.
It is. It is. But what I will say is I think they have enough players similar to, like we said about City before or Arsenal. I think there's enough players in there that can chip in with goals. They've got Gibbs White, they've got Omar Hutchinson who can create things out of nowhere. They do have players in there that can chip in. Yeah, I mean, Chris Wood's obviously not been a non-starter for them this season, so obviously they've missed his goals from last season. Clearly, I think he's been a massive miss, and yeah, as much as Jesus has tried to lead that line, I just don't think. I think the job's been a bit big for him this season, unfortunately. So yeah, they do need. Probably in the summer, ironically, they need to buy some more players and get themselves a proper goal scorer, which I'm sure Forest fans will probably have a chuckle at the fact that they need to buy even more. But, I still think they have enough about them for us to get themselves clear of it. I mean, they're doing pretty well in Europe at the minute. And I think the energy of that performance in it itself is so much more than what they've had for the majority of the season. I think that'll be enough for them to put their hopes on to get them out of trouble and climb themselves away from the relegation spots, really.
You just need to stabilise again, don't they? And I mean, I'm with you. I think there's Jesus has done well in Europe, but it's really struggled kind of in the Premier League. The wood goals that they're missing. The electric pace that they had of kind of Alanga last season was giving them something. The defence hasn't been quite as sturdy. That to bring, I think Stefan Ortega's a decent keeper, so he's come in. Obviously, Matt Sells has been out, and there's just that kind of instability of the manager merry-go-round. You've got Vitor Pereira now, and I think to be fair with Pereira, I think people were giving it a lot of jip, going, "Oh, he's got Wolves. Look, he brought in someone who's got Wolves down where they are." He started well with them last season. And you look at that team that Wolves had, I think anybody struggles with them this season compared to who they're up against. So it's interesting to see how if he can kind of get something. But he clearly had that passion and frustration at the team, but he was getting something out of them. The performance was decent up until that. The most important bit, obviously, in terms of scoring goals. But the rest of it, so there's lots that they can build on. And again, they've got games coming up. They're away at Brighton, away at Manchester City. Home at Fulham, and then that massive game away at kind of Tottenham feels like that could be huge by the time that kind of gets around. So, but they need, there's top quality players there. I mean, Elliot Anderson, bits or so of Elliot Anderson at the weekend. Every time I kind of watch him, he's just such an assured midfield player. He's recycling the ball really well. He'd get it into areas. You just need the most important bit to happen for them. But they'll need to do it quick because West Ham are looking decent. And they may well be looking at Spurs and going.
But this is the thing. I think, as strange as it sounds, for Forest to have lost in the way that they did, they probably still have a bit more momentum than Spurs at the minute. Because West Ham are obviously on the up. I think Forest have got a bit more energy about them. Leeds are picking up points consistently now. I don't think they're necessarily they go into every game thinking they can get something out of it now, whilst obviously at the very start of the season, until they sort of made the formation change against City, they were struggling to get anything out of games. They're not doing that anymore. They're giving big teams a game even on a bad day. So Spurs really are the ones that seem to be sinking and out of form, and everyone else seems to just be starting to pick up at the right moment. So yeah, I think if Forest go into the weekend and with another decent performance in Europe, there's no reason they can't pick up some wins in the next few games. And again, a couple of wins in the next few games, you basically I think Forest on 29 points, so they'd be on 35, which would be a big swing for them. So depending obviously however results go, it could pull them away. But yeah, I think that performance is probably, it sounds very strange to say when they've lost the game, but it was probably one of the best performances I've seen from Forest this season, which is saying a lot, really, considering the fact that they've lost the game. But they generally were that good, I think.
Yeah, and just something to take forward anyway. Something to take forward, and some
100%.
hope that they'll look to jump on. So a couple of games we'll go through quickly, and really Brentford Brighton. Well, I suppose Brentford have been so good at home. Brighton have been desperately needing a win, absolutely desperately needed a win, because they've been sort of disappearing down the table quite quickly when you were kind of looking at it. It's their first league win since the 3rd of January. They've been failing to score in recent weeks. It's kind of just that one that just ensures that, they don't get dragged into anything silly, I think. And Brentford away, which is a massive important one. So, first of all, massive result for Brighton in terms of where they're at. And of course, the appearance record, Grimmy, was broken this weekend by the evergreen James Milner, who with his, I think, 653 appearances, I want to say. So it breaks the appearance record. Good win for Brighton. And what do you make of James Milner, the most appeared player in the Premier League?
I mean, huge respect. I mean, the guy's played for 20 years and over 20 years now, isn't it, since he made his debut? And, I might not have liked the teams he plays for. He's played for pretty much every team that I don't like. Having played for Leeds, Liverpool, City, and Newcastle, being obviously living up here as a United fan. But, you can only have a massive amount of respect for someone that's obviously had the love of the game, had the professionalism to stay in the game for as long as he has. You need both those things, I think, to play as long as Milner has, and let's be honest, at the quality that he has as well. He's not someone that's hung around and being a bad player. He's come in, and yes, he might not be playing 90 minutes every week, but he's playing a role and he's doing it well for Brighton. There's a reason why he's there, for his experience. So, a huge amount of respect for what he's done in the game, what he's doing right now in terms of his appearances. It'll be, he's obviously going to have more appearances towards the end of the season, so he's only going to go and extend that record. And fair plays to him for doing it, because there's not many players that get to play a 20+ year career, much less have the amount of games and play for the quality teams that he has. Because he's, apart from Leeds and Newcastle, who weren't great at the time when he was there, because obviously he was at Leeds at the time when obviously they were on the verge of going out of business and getting relegated from the Premier League. And then Newcastle obviously was a similar story. He was there at a bad time for Newcastle. He's been at good squads throughout his career. Villa, he was there when Martin O'Neill was getting the top 4. City, we don't need to say much about what he did there because he was very successful. Liverpool wins the first title with them for however many years. And, he's gone on to have a fantastic career. And, it speaks volumes when you just say the amount of games alone, never mind looking at all the accolades he's got and all the winners' medals he has. Yeah, he's had a fantastic career, and fair play to him, really.
Yes, tremendous career. I say, amongst some fantastic teams he's played in, some fantastic honours, some fantastic trophies, and kind of a model professional at the same time. So, congratulations to James Milner. A lot of respect and great win for Brighton. Brentford, they'll be disappointed that they've had a couple of defeats in their last few. So 2 defeats out of their last 3, which is as many as the previous 15 that they'd had. It was, they've managed to sign, I think, saw Igor Thiago sign a new contract, which is good for them to kind of retain his kind of value. But I don't think there'll be 2, with the way the season's going. It's kind of the way it is. They had a good draw against Arsenal the kind of week before. Just one of those games. It's the Premier League. Teams can turn up on you wherever. You never know. You never, ever know. And the final game we'll bring up before we go to the results on the table. Sadly, he's not with us tonight. The wonderful Ants. Sunderland home record was beaten by Liverpool last week. And like London buses... No, to be fair, he is hosting on Thursday, I think, while Shars continues to retain the voice. But yes, like London buses, 2 losses at home for Sunderland in back-to-back weeks, and a good performance from Fulham. Raul Jimenez with on the score sheet again, who's 13 out of 13 in terms of penalties, Grimmy, which is pretty pretty impressive. That's not a bad ratio at all.
No.
Doing the business, the business for Fulham. And of course, once again, the Superman, Wilson was involved. Assist is amongst the league's most productive assisters this season as well. He's been fantastic, as well as some of his superb goals. So, Sunderland, a little bit of a dip. I mean, at the end of the day, they're nowhere near the relegation zone, and Ant will tell you they're kind of just happy. But is there a bit of a worry that if it just sort of peters out a little bit, it just dulls the story a tad? Probably not. But
I think for Sunderland fans, I don't think anything really that happens between now and the end of the season will dull what happens. I think, the 36 points, I can't see them getting dragged into that relegation battle, really. I think they're too far ahead of things with 11 games to go. Their main concern for Sunderland now will be, obviously they'll be trying to finish as high as possible, but the big concern for them will be that derby game on the 22nd of March. If they get the double over Newcastle, I think there'd be some Sunderland fans, and Ant probably may well be included in this, that if you offered them, if the choice was stay up or the double over Newcastle, I think a lot of Sunderland fans would be tempted by the double over staying up, but I think there is a chance that there's a chance that they may get both, to be fair. So, it's going to be very interesting end to the season. But yeah, you can only compliment that Sunderland and what they've been able to achieve so far this season. And regardless of where they end up, it's a fantastic season for them. No one really had them staying up. I think I might have had them staying up. I think it's one of the few things I might have got right this season. Because my predictions were awful once again. But yeah, I think for any Sunderland fan, being in this position in your first Premier League season back is more than a dream come true. And I think at the start of the season, you said you will be in the relegation fight, but you'll still have a chance of staying up going into the last couple of games of the season. I think they would have taken that because it meant they would have had a chance to stay in the Premier League, and they've obviously got way more than that than they could have possibly imagined. A fantastic season for Sunderland, and the Sunderland fans will just be hoping summer transfer window they can kick on from there and build on a good start to being back in the Premier League, really.
Well, indeed, and I'd say if they do business like they did last time, I'd be interested in where Sunderland are looking to go to next, and that'll be some interesting stuff to talk about with Ant ahead of next season. But for Fulham, first win after three losses on the trot, to kind of arrest the skid for them. They got Tottenham and West Ham at home next, so they'll see that as good opportunities it's two of the battling relegation sides. Coming up this weekend. So we'll go to the fixtures. I might just have to jingle around a little bit because StreamYard's not playing ball today. So we'll go here. That's a lovely little. We're like trading cards, Grimmy. There you go. We just need a little shiny background or whatever. I know you're a man who loves his trading cards. So elsewhere in the Premier League, Aston Villa 1-1, as we said, drop points for Aston Villa, a 1-1 draw against Leeds, and they had to rescue that with Tammy Abraham fairly late on. So a bit of a halt in Villa's recent run. They'll be a little bit concerned about with those Champions League places starting to condense up a little bit. Obviously mentioned Brighton winning at Brentford, the draw with Chelsea, Burnley. West Ham, Bournemouth was 0-0. Bournemouth have been difficult to beat recently, decent kind of form. West Ham, it's a point for them. Not a lot else to report from that game. And the end of the game we didn't touch on, Crystal Palace 1, Wolves 0. Wolves had the chance. They missed a penalty. Rocadare. Yep. Jimenez is 13 out of 13, Grimmy, but he's missed his last 5 penalties. So possibly maybe not the one you want to go to and chuck the ball to next time.
I think after 2 misses, you should probably take a day off on the penalties. I think if you get 2 misses in a row, I feel like that's your time done for a little bit. Let's take a break on the penalties there, Sunshine. I think it's time for someone else.
It was a scratchy penalty as well.
It was not
good.
There's grass cutters, and then there was that. I think that could have put a divot in the ground. I think.
It wasn't great, and then Crystal Palace went on with Evan Gessan, who's scored a couple of goals for them since he's come in. So, and something Palace needed, but interested to see. Obviously, United play them this weekend. They've been giving up a lot of chances of Palace, so I'd like to see, because usually Old Trafford against Palace hasn't been that fruitful in recent seasons. But let's see what happens. And therefore, we also have the Premier League table, of course, which we're going to have to change things up again so that we can see that too. There we go. We'll go over this way this time. There is the league table currently. Of course, Arsenal are top by 5 points with that game in hand, though, which Manchester City could bring it down to 2. Third place, Aston Villa. They've been caught up slightly by Manchester United. They're on 51 points. Manchester United on 48 points in 4th. Then you have Chelsea and Liverpool both with 45. At the other end of the table, it's condensing up a little bit. Wolves, 20th still, 10 points. Burnley 19th with 19. West Ham in 18th with 25. Just 2 points behind Nottingham Forest in 17th with 27 points. And of course, Tottenham just 2 points ahead of them on 29. Then you do have Leeds in 15th as well with 31 points. But looking like it's going to be exciting at both ends of the table as we go into the run-in. So very, very exciting. Very exciting indeed. But what has been exciting, Grimmy, has been able to talk football with you tonight about the Premier League. What a wonderful time we've had. Thank you to everybody as well in the chat as well who's joined us. We really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel or if you're a regular watcher, do hit that like button. It's very important for the channel. We'd really appreciate it if you could drop us that support. There's a hype button as well, Grimmy. Some people can see it, some people can't in the comments. If you see it, press it. Because why not? It's a button, you should press it, depending on the button. But this button's okay. And yes, please subscribe if you're new as well. And hope you've enjoyed the show. But most importantly, Grimmy, where can everybody find you and some of the stuff that you're doing on the lines?
Yeah, so at the minute, my main thing to promote is my recent reboot of my Manchester United channel. Grim Devils on YouTube, doing fairly consistent videos depending on how frequently we would play, which coming up might be a bit interesting when we have like a 3-week gap in between March and April. I think we have between fixtures, so yeah, that could be interesting. We might have to fill that with some interesting ideas. But Grim Devils on YouTube, Grim Devils again on the Twitter space as well. If you want to follow us there. Would greatly appreciate any follows, any watches on the videos. Obviously, all goes a long way to help a little channel like me out. So yeah, that's about it, really. Yeah,
that's it.
Where can we find you, Sam? Other than here, obviously.
Other than here, of course, you can find me at Sam Absolute FBL, which is mostly at the minute on Twitter, hoping to bring some of my sort of TikTok news videos back next week. And yes, I do have a YouTube channel. It's currently kind of on hiatus. I've got some plans, which is probably going to be more the World Cup time now, I think, because there's plenty going on at the minute I need to focus on for the podcast, including, you may see over that side, there we go, that side over there, the scarf on the back. I went to see Maidenhead United this weekend and sort of my start to go around country seeing games here and there now and again. It was Maidenhead versus Dagenham and Redbridge, which I will be producing and editing a video for the channel. I'm hoping Sunday. Keep an eye out on the socials. I just need to find some time to clip it all together and try and make sense out of my journey there and the experiences I had at York Road. Did you know, Grimmy, the oldest continuous ground in the world? Apparently.
Really? Wow.
Yep. I saw the plaque. There you go. So it must be official.
The plaque says it, so therefore it is true.
The plaque says all. But what is also important that says all is the Absolute Football Podcast. Look at that. It is the socials important. Come and follow us at all these places. We're on Twitter, Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast, and Twitch, TikTok, Absolute Football Pod, Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Sky Absolute Football, and Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. We're on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. live. On a Monday, it is the Absolutely Non-League show with Shah in collaboration with the fantastic NL Full Time, covering National League North and South. So if you're interested in any of them, you support any teams with that, or just want to check out a new show, check that out because that is already on the channel now. On Tuesdays, with the Absolutely Premier League show, it will be a mix between now and the end of the season of Premier League show / watch-alongs, depending what's happening on Tuesdays, because there's some big matches coming up towards the end of the season. But keep an eye on the Twitter pages. We'll let you know. On Wednesday, back tomorrow, absolutely women's football show with Freya Paul and Team Chaos. They're talking the FA Cup. It was the 5th round of the Women's FA Cup this weekend, as well as all the big stories from women's football. They'll be on Wednesday tomorrow night if you're watching this live. And on Thursday, the absolutely EFL show. Shah will be back, but I think Ant will be doing a lot of the talking. Shah is, bless her, resting her voice at the moment. So we will have the usual rowdy rabble talking Championship, League One and League Two. That will be on Thursday, and they'll be talking about some of the games that were going on tonight as well as last weekend. So there's plenty to keep yourself busy. You can be a YouTube member as well, which is just wonderful. You get emojis in the chat. We've got some special episodes of which more will be coming behind the scenes, where you get to meet the team, find out a bit more, and plenty planned in the future for that as well. So do check that out. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend this evening with you. Hope you have a wonderful week. Enjoy the football. Ciao for now.